I mean, the NCAA still does have some leverage. There's a lot of money to be had, especially from March Madness.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with us today on this Throwdown Thursday edition, as we talk about a change gonna come to the NCAA academic and athletic consultant for the Odd Coaches Podcast, George Aka. George, can't wait to hear you talk about revenue sharing. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm here to watch it all crumble. I'm here to watch it all crumble.
We have our team leader, our captain for life, Will Cotton. Will, you played for me. Can't wait to hear the student athlete version of all of this stuff coming. How are you, man?
Well, it's changed now. They're making money. So that we might have a little different conversation.
All right. And our favorite administrator, and we're going to need you today, Robert Abney. Robert, how are you, sir?
As always, I'm living the dream, but there's a lot of shoveling to be done in this mess.
Okay. So in segment one, we're going to talk about revenue sharing. It's coming. Segment two, we're going to talk about NIL from a coach's perspective. And in segment three, the bowls are changing too because all of this is having an impact on all facets of this. But first, revenue sharing is coming, fans. And according to media reports, the NCAA are in deep discussions regarding a legal settlement that will give NCAA athletes revenue sharing. But it will not solve the issue, but because a $20 million cap is still a cap, and that hasn't been collectively bargained. So we still have a lot of questions. And among the questions is whether the NCAA and the conferences themselves will pay, or if member schools will have to foot the bill. George, I'm going to start with you. You've had a chance to peek at some of the notes. What are you thinking about revenue sharing and how it may or may not work in college athletics?
Why? And my why comes from if I'm a conference, I'm looking at why do we have to cut? Why do we have to give NCAA any part of this? We can do this without them, and that's the crux of what's going to happen here. They can make all this happen without them. The SEC has already signed the football deals, the TV packages, because that's where the major money comes in. If we go in together as with a couple conferences and put up and create an even bigger package, who needs the NCAA? Because we can sheriff this ourselves. So my whole thing is here we are singing another one of the death nails for the NCAA. So good luck. Good luck to him.
Robert, what are you thinking about all of this?
Well, I agree with George in the sense. I mean, the NCAA is doing what they can to hang on. I mean, that's what this is. They're trying to figure out a way to hang on. The conferences do. I mean, the NCAA still does have some leverage. There's a lot of money to be had, especially from March Madness. Because the NCAA still gets all of the national, March Madness money, men's and women's. Volleyball has become more popular. Gymnastics has become more popular. College baseball and softball have become more popular. They're still getting revenue from these tournaments and from the TV rights and all of that kind of. So the NCAA still has some financial leverage, but I think that is going to be short-lived because there are still lawsuits against the NCAA out there that they've got to settle. They have to settle those. There's no way they want those to go to court because they'll lose everything on them.
Yeah.
$20 million a school. Okay.
That's still a cap. That's still a cap.
It is still a cap. You haven't had any discussions with any student athlete organizations. And then never mind that, let's just throw this in here just for fun. You have certain universities that have decided that their student athletes are actually employees of the university. And how does that impact all this? This is
It's a mess.
none of this, it's not going to end well. It's unclear how exactly it ends poorly.
And I'll throw a monkey wrench with this because they think they still have some pull with like the college baseball and gymnastics and volleyball. But if you look at the SEC network and how much money they're pulling in with their gymnastics and their baseball play and and that's the deal they signed with ESPN outside of the NCAA. They don't need them. They don't need them. There's nothing worse.
God, man, close out the segment. What are you thinking about all of this from your perspective in personnel, sir?
Well, I think like George and Robert said, I mean, I think right now the NCAA, they're getting like good faith. You know, a lot of guys, they probably been working for each other for decades, playing golf with each other, you know, and everything. It's like, please, man, please, come on, man. We're going to make this work together. We're going to make it work. We're going to make it work. But it's not going to work. Just like George said, I mean, they don't need the NCAA. They don't need it, you know, and they're holding on to something because they know their days are coming up. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be an ugly breakup, just like in your Kardashians and all your celebrity relationships. And it's going to be loud. It's going to be loud. You know, it's not going to be quiet. You know, when the things kind of get exposed. But again, we saw this, you know, 5 years ago. We knew this was going to happen. It was going to get too big for them. So yeah, George and Robert kind of said, you know, everything that needed to go. But it's how fast it happens is what's going to happen.
Go ahead, Robert.
Did point out that you have pointed out there's a way around this for the NCAA. You know, get Congress to give them an antitrust exemption.
And Charlie Baker is a former governor, and that's what he's holding his hat to, is that he's going to have relationships to allow that to happen. Wow. So that is the life raft. Apparently, is the antitrust.
Given that we have an environment in Congress right now where they can't even agree on whether the sky is blue, I don't think I would hang my hat on that argument.
No, especially when you got state senators siding with the schools when they go to court. Because like Florida Center went in with Florida State, just like Virginia? With Tennessee. Yep, Virginia too. So the NCAA, you can say what you want to, they're trying their best to grab its scraps because there's nothing left on that bone. They're going to take it and be gone.
The Articles of Confederation didn't work. No. So when we come back in segment 2, we're going to look at NIL from a coach's perspective, and I can't wait to hear the panel talk about this. We'll be right back on the iCoaches podcast.
The CKA SAVE Project is an industry leader in advocating for student-athlete, academic, and athletic needs. Through academic and athletic enrichment, the CKA SAVE Project is on the forefront of the issues facing 21st century student-athletes. As student-athletes continue to struggle to find a better balance between academic and athletic success, the CKA SAVE Project offers academic and athletic services to support student-athlete academic success, including academic skills assessment, academic and athletic consulting, academic monitoring, academic and athletic workshops. For more information or to schedule a free consultation, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. And in segment 2, had an opportunity to hear from a now Power 4, because we can't say Power 5 after this year. Arizona State baseball coach Willie Bloomquist was discussing how NIL impacts all of college sports. And here are some of the takeaways from what he said. And I'm going to paraphrase. He says, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be awfully hard for programs to succeed without it in terms of NIL. And right now we need help at Arizona State. And that's just me being real. That's not me crying. It's where we are in college sports, like it or not. We need funds to be able to get players we need if we want to continue building this program the way we want. It's not just the standard recruiting it used to be, where you go out, get young players, and develop them. That's not the landscape anymore. Arizona State has resources, yet football struggles, basketball hit and miss, and baseball should be one of their marquee sports, especially in the state of Arizona. George, starting with you, what did you think about his comments? You have the floor.
He's smart. I mean, because it's what's happening. I see it now a lot, because I went to my son was fortunate enough to get invited to one of our area colleges. He plays football, and it was their junior day. And it was to sit down, it was a business presentation. They talked about all, and it was incredible, because they talked about all the things the school had to offer and this, that, but packaged in there was your NIL opportunities, and what businesses they had, major corporations they had around them that you could partner with and get an opportunity to work with. This is going to be the lifeblood of what happens. It just so happens that a lot of the schools and down in the SEC and the ACC have kind of figured this out quicker than everybody else, and come up with packages. And that's one. And with for you to be a successful coach in the future, you're going to have to be savvy enough to be to do to put these packages together and know what you can and can't do. It's going to be like running a football team or something, or a professional league, a professional league or something. You're going to have X amount of dollars to give out, and you're going to have to spread the wealth around as you can, depending on what player you want to sign. And the guys with the most money and the resources to be able to do it, or the ingenuity on how to work the system and the numbers, are going to be the most success. They're going to get the most talent, and that's the way it's going to be. Now, like I said before, this kind of stuff was done under the table. You go back to those days in Texas, and Robert will echo this for me. SMU was like one of the best to ever do it, but then that old fogey, the NCAA, jumped in and was like, "Oh no, you can't do that." Now, guess what? It's legal now, so you better get ready, because the Texas A&Ms are all they have money to burn. They have packages to put together, and the kids are going to follow. And the kids are going to follow the money.
So, Robert, I thought the coach was thoughtful in his response, and it made me pause. What were your reactions to what you read?
I think he was thoughtful. And where we are anymore is, if you're the head coach, you're not really coaching. I mean, you're more of a CEO anymore, because you have to manage that NIL money so that you get the most bang for your buck in terms of the players you get. You have to continually find more money, or help the university find more money, so that you can continue to provide enticing packages. And then you have to do some, cost benefit analysis, in terms of, you have a kid coming to you and saying, "Hey, I feel like I can get this much money out here, and I feel like I can get X, you're only giving me Y," and you're going to have to decide, okay, can he get X? Do we have X to give him? Or do we just need to let him go? And I mean, it's really going to depend on how much money colleges and universities can come up with. And I've said it several times. George just referenced it. University of Texas, Texas A&M have more money than God. I mean, they have money to burn. And I am sure that they are not the only schools in the SEC that have money to burn. Alabama and LSU have plenty of money. And I mean, I don't like it. I don't see an end. I don't see how it gets better. And a lot of that is just because it's still so new. People are still figuring it out. And I think at some point we will probably get to a new normal, but we're not anywhere near there yet. And I don't know what this is gonna look like. I will say one thing I want to see stopping. Quit putting on social media, high school kids, committed, because 5 years from now they're going to be on their fourth school. Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? Anyway, that's just me telling people to get off my lawn.
Robert, I'll tell you this though. What it's going to do is it is going to create the new position at every college of GM.
Yeah.
And it is, and that GM is going to be the one, and I hope that position comes sooner than later, because it's going to allow the coaches to get back to just being the coach, and the GM will manage the overall money and day-to-day stuff. So that will be like the bet that's going to happen. I know I can already foresee who's going to be the first ones to have that in place. So, it'll change the landscape a whole lot.
Will, close us out this segment. You read the coach's thoughts again, as I said to Robert. I thought he was thoughtful about this is the reality of what we're living in. We know people in our lives across the country who are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. What are your thoughts, sir?
I think the first thing I have is a comment, and then I do have a question, and George and Robert could definitely answer that for me. So I definitely think there's going to be a change, and it just changes more than the recruiting. It's rather than just going, hey, this is what you got, this is what we provide. It's like, no, this is the package, this is what you got, and then you have to think, is this kid going to be? He's a 5-star. Is he going to stay? Is he worth it, or should I get a 4-star who's going to stay 2-3 years and build a program? It'll be new questions. It'll be new challenges. Like George said, maybe you get a general manager, to manage it underneath the athletic director. That would work too. But when you have teams like ASU who have money and resources, but they don't, they can look back to a ton of things. These kids are smart now. These kids have access to information. You can't just tell them like this is what it is, and they'll ask, hey, well, my son is 7 years old. And he's over here asking me questions. I'm like, bro, just do it. So I can imagine if you're 18, 19 and they're courting you and you're getting millions of dollars, and you're going to have questions. Sometimes they're politically. How do you feel about this? What do when you're 19, 20, you have a lot of fire in you about, politics. So you're going to be like, hey, how do you feel about, whatever, human rights, women's rights? What do you think about that? Those are going to be factors, and that could change the landscape of how these states run. But I do ask a question to you guys. Do you think that if we're already thinking about a GM role, is there some sort of salary cap that they could implement that could somehow keep it all fair? For example, like Robert likes to say, and I love this, Texas A&M has more money than God. It's so funny to say, but it's true. Would a salary cap kind of, baseline or.
Well, I'll take that question for you. If you have a cap that is not collectively bargained, you have a lawsuit. If you have a cap that is not collectively bargained, you have a lawsuit, and you're going to lose that lawsuit. Hey, wait, we're in court right now. Go ahead, George.
But Will, what I think they will do, is they will come in, as this will be as a conference once that super conference gets together. They will collectively bargain something to make sure that they're not going to make the playing field totally equal, but they're going to make it as equal as possible, because some of the smaller members are going to be like, hey, look, man, y'all, because people are going to start getting outbidded, and they're going to be like, look, we got to have the way to make this make all these games feasible and money driven, because money's going to drive the whole thing. And you don't want to see Sisters of the Poor play DeMatha every night. So they're going to want to make it sure that everybody's competitive. So
and George set us up for our last segment as we talk about the potential new bowl structure that's going to bring up some of the things George just mentioned. We'll be right back on the iCoaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Fallon Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the iCoaches podcast. In segment 3, it's more, not less. Believe it or not, fans. Get ready for more bowl games, not less, as college administrators continue to push for more postseason access in all sports. So we just had a meeting with bowl season director Nick Capraletti last week, and he believes after the college football playoffs expands from 4 to 12 this fall and potentially 14 in 2026, expansion is the hot trend. So let's talk about the bowl rules. The NCAA has no stake in the college football playoffs or the current 42 bowl games, which include the college football playoffs. But leaders are attracted to the trend, like in other NCAA sports, to expand their postseason, as the NCAA basketball tournament is talking about going to as many as 80 teams. So here are the air quote new rules for bowls. 6 out of the 42 current bowl games scheduled for 2024 are playoff games, but they got a problem. Not enough bowl-eligible teams were available last year, so you had 3 5-win teams accepting invitations. Teams like Rutgers and Rice and Minnesota. And the quality of play, as we joke on the show, strictly for entertainment purposes only, has suffered because of player opt-outs. At least 78 players opted out of bowl games, and 431 players entered the transfer portal. And don't get me started on that Florida State-Georgia game. Okay. So, with that being said, they believe the possible solution for opt-outs is a revenue sharing model for the postseason bowl games. The NCAA is trying to settle antitrust lawsuits. And with that, the group of 5 wants in too. So, as George mentioned in the last segment, there's a lot of uncertainty in college football around player play, etc. So the group of 5 teams, they're trying to get their own playoff together because they keep getting the short end of the stick. So George, with all of these nuggets of information coming through, what are your thoughts about the potential shift in opt-outs with bowls and increasing participation in the postseason? You've got the floor.
First thing I'm going to start off by saying I told you so. Because have I not been preaching this every time we talk about this? They're gonna find, when there is discontent, the proletariat will find their own way to make it happen, and they are doing that right now.
Let them eat cake.
That's right. They're just going to take the cake this time. This is them, because they know they are, and this was what the big this is what the big aha moment was. They said, they knew, they were like, look, We're the reason everybody shows up to watch these things. So why give most of the money over here and let this entity, which doesn't serve us well except for give penalties out, and let them divvy out the money? So they're not going to do it. So they'll go ahead. They said it's better we just create our own thing, and we can discuss how to divvy out the money. So you're going to see a tier system of how the money gets divvied out. It'll get divvied out depending on how well you do. And during the season, they'll find a way that with the TV contracts and stuff like that, and all the other income they have, they'll find a way to divvy it out so it's somewhat on a very level playing field. What they won't touch is the local stuff that they can do. That the local money that they can generate, they won't touch that. But the stuff that within the network, they'll do it, and they'll do that, and they'll do it to make sure everybody stays competitive. So the games are competitive. You don't end up having Mary's sister of the poor playing Colorado or whoever at that point in time. But the more interesting thing will be to see how these conferences shift again, because the shifting is not over. Because you got hot teams or hot programs or hot schools in certain areas that are going to want in, and they're going to want them in because it's going to make the revenue go up off for everybody. So
George, do you really think that these people are concerned with games being competitive?
I do, because it's going to, if your game's not competitive, your alumni and fan base are going to be in an uproar. One, and then part two about it is they're not going to want to put it on TV. So I really think it'll be one of those situations. Somebody starts falling off. Say, let's take. I hate to beat up on Kentucky right now, so let's beat up on Kentucky. Say they're not competitive for the next 5 years or something. They could drop down to the second. I actually see the super conference and going into two levels. So where there's the upper level and the bottom level. And it's almost like a soccer thing. So if you drop down, if you have everybody gets re-rated up in a 5 years period or a 2 year period. If you got X number of losses or wins or whatever, something will cause you to drop down or go up, and it'll be something like that. I could actually really see that happening, playing out well, because it'll be an easy way to divvy up the revenue that they do get from the TV deals and bowl, and it guarantees them having competitive bowls every year.
Speaking of that, Robert, we joked on the show about bowl season. Do you think any of these things will limit opt-outs, or I'm still not playing if I'm going to be a first round pick?
No, I just don't. If my team is 6-6 and we get to go play in the New Mexico Bowl, I'm going to pick on the New Mexico Bowl because, I mean, that's not a real high level bowl game. It's just not. If we're 6-6 and I get to go play in the New Mexico Bowl, what could I possibly get out of playing in that game that is going to outweigh the future benefits of where I'm going to be in the draft? I don't see that changing anything for those guys. I could see if they change the portal deadlines in terms of when you can enter the portal. I could see maybe some kids staying in and playing in bowl games, but if they leave the portal deadlines where they are, and this kid knows that he's going to leave New Mexico State because he has people from Alabama, Texas, and Georgia interested in him, there's no benefit to him playing in that bowl game because he's going to go get paid by one of those other three. So I don't know as it's going to change anything.
So to wrap up, simplicity has its place. When your goals are not aligned, have conflict. My first recommendation is to increase the use and importance of the NCAA student athlete advisory committee. They have committees on all schools, all levels. And if you don't have students at the table having a voice, you're going to have an issue. So that is the first starting point. But hey, we're just a bunch of guys in a podcast. So on behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the iCoaches podcast, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
The iCoaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The iCoaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the iCoaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the iCoaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at oddcoaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the iCoaches podcast.